Yeah, you're good. 7 people are watching.
Okay, but it's not showing up here.
No, I have your.
Oh, you're doing it through, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I have a browser. I see it. You're good to go. You're on television.
All right. Funny story for those who are now tuning in. And again, thank you to my dear board members here. For some reason, we were unable to connect to YouTube until just now. And because of the Kansas Open Meetings Act, I wanted to make sure we were abiding by all the appropriate rules. Thankfully, we have once again thwarted the technology. So we are now broadcasting. I apologize for the lateness. This was way beyond my control, but now we can get this meeting started. So welcome everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to our meeting chair, Stephen Horton.
Hi there, my name is Stephen Horton and welcome to the 2021 Transient Guest Tax Advisory Board. Before we get started on the program, I'm going to turn this over to Porter for some housekeeping remarks, and then we will get moved on what we need to do. So Porter.
Great, thank you, Stephen. So yes, I just want to remind everybody we are broadcasting and recording this meeting. It is being broadcast on YouTube and on the cable channel access number 25. When you are speaking, please state your name for the benefit of anybody who may not be able to see the screens. That will help so that they understand who's talking about what issue during the meeting. And I think that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, welcome board. I'd like to conduct a roll call for our members. Mary Doveton. Hi, Mary.
Mary, well, for the record, Mary waved.
Yes.
Yes, okay, I forgot to unmute.
Okay, we can hear you, Mary, thank you. Heather Schull.
Oh, hi, I'm here.
Tim Metz.
Present.
Derek Felch.
I'm here.
Sue Shea.
Here.
Heidi Champagne. I think Heidi is absent unless she is on telephone. Okay, and Stephen Horton, I'm here.
Great.
Okay, the first and only item on today's agenda is to review the 2021 TGT application scoring and determine the award recommendations for the city's commission review. This year we had 25 applications with a total request of $252,798.64. This is $132,798.64 more than the $120,000 allocated in the budget by the City Commission. As we know, scoring these grants is very challenging because the events include such a wide range of programming, everything from street festivals to volleyball tournaments. I want to remind the people that the scores reflect the board's assessment for the grant applications and presentations, and this is not a reflection on the organizations who are holding the events. Porter has entered the individual scores into the matrix that will provide some information as a starting point for our discussions. And now I'm going to turn this over to Porter to share the scoring information.
All right, so let me do a screen share here, and I just want to walk through what we have available for all of you as reference points. Okay, now I got to get all my screens coordinated here. Can everybody see the spreadsheet? Okay, great. So let me shrink this down a little bit so you can see the whole picture. All right, so this is the overall scoring that was submitted. And as I've said in years past, we have this matrix set up, which also allows us to share standard deviations above and below the average mean. So anything showing up in red is below and anything showing up in blue is above. The point being is that instead of just averaging scores, this allows us to take a look at visually what's different and get a better sense of what the scoring looks like overall. because the idea is not to just do this by a scoring process, but to have some dialogue as well. And so this gives an opportunity for you all to discuss things and debate, different aspects of this as you see fit. I want to remind everybody that you all, have different perspectives on these events from hotels, arts and culture, et cetera. So that's why you're here, and to have those discussions is warranted. What I've done too is set up a matrix that allows us to provide funding calculations by percentages. So in other words, if I put 100% in here, it automatically shows us the grant amount that would be awarded. This is how we can eventually go through and tally everything so that you can actually see it in real time as we go through. Because clearly we don't have full funding for every event here. And then just for a reference, I created these. One is at 100% funding, which basically, if you went down the list, this is only a sample, and this is done by the scoring, but it would get to the number 12 event if you were to give 100%. If you did 80%, that gets down to 15. Just as a reference point to give a sense of how much funding is available and how much the percentages will affect this. So unless you have questions, that's where we are. I did send this to you, so hopefully you all have this in front of you so you can see it as well. And from there, I think let's open it up to start the discussion.
Hi, this is Stephen again. I believe last year, Porter, we did some events from at 100% and 80%, I believe. So we didn't just say that it was all either 100% or just 80%. We actually became quite creative last year, and we did the funding on different percentages.
That is correct.
Okay, Porter, that one you showed us, you were showing us that was the top 10.
Top 10, I don't understand.
If you were showing the percentages, if we gave money to the top ones, was that in order of that? Yeah.
Again, this is just as a reference point because this is based on the top score to the lowest score. And not that you would do it that way, but that gives you a sense of how much funding you have. You could fund up to, I think actually technically 11 events with full funding. But again, that's the first top. So we have to remember that these are the request amounts here.
Sure.
That's based on this scoring. But if you change that order at all, that would change potentially the number of grants, but it gives you a sense of how much funding you have and how many events might be funded at different levels. That's why I did this. We do this each year, and I thought it just gives you a reference point.
Porter, this is Tim, and just kind of looking at the 100 and the 80%, in some ways they capture a good cross section of the events. Either one of them looks fine to me, frankly. I can make an argument for either one that, in a year where outside funding sources is probably going to be impacted because of COVID, maybe doing 100% and doing fewer makes sense. But by the same token, 80% is not a huge reduction from that. But the one thing that I noticed in both of those is that they cover a wide variety of events, including sporting events, culture events, et cetera, et cetera. So, just looking at what you've done there has been pretty illustrative to me.
Tim, this is Stephen. I know that this shows 100% and 80% based on 120. And we are doing our best case scenario at the moment in time based on $120,000 from the city. But however, that may also subject to change as we move into the city, into the year, and things may change for the city on the amount they're putting out.
This is Derek. I think this is my 4th year of being a part of this, and it has been a good experience. I think in the years past, coming from the first year was a learning curve of really focusing. My perspective was to focus on events that provided room nights. And I would say that my thinking has evolved in the considering the arts and things that may be good for the city of Lawrence, but don't provide room nights. But I want to be upfront and honest that this year, it's hard for me to think like that. We've got hotels on financial life support in our town, and we have scored the only events that will guarantee to bring rooms to Lawrence below any funding. And I know there's some challenges. I know a couple of years ago, we pushed back on rebates and for-profit events, and as hotels, we took some heat because we lost events to other communities because of the stands that we recommended the city take. But this year, it's hard for me to say that the transient guest tax, which is going to be money hard to replenish, and the only way it's going to be replenished is by rooms sold. And I have a harder time. While I like some of these events that scored well, I have a hard time supporting that this year in a year where everything's tough. I think my fear is that some of these events, and I wasn't able to make the questions, and someone, I can't remember who, brought up the question about, hey, on some of these sporting events, you already show a profit and you're asking for more money. And that was a great question to ask. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but he also mentioned that last year was at the Hy-Vee Arena. And we're going to be competing to get some of these groups back to Lawrence. And my fear is that every arena, every event center is going to be desperate. And we're kind of, the events are in the driver's seat to pick where they can go, assuming these events happen. And so for me, I would like to push back on the decision, the collective scoring a bit, to say, hey, I think we need to look at these sporting events, at least have a discussion about it. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. I'm just telling you how I'm kind of wired today to look at this. My filter, I guess, is a better word today.
Good.
You know,
Mhm.
I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to say and position. And actually that, you know, kind of came across my mind too. But what you just said ultimately kind of reigned higher in my mind. And that is, you know, part of this is to seed events that are going to be here a long time. And I think a lot of these sporting events are going to go wherever they get the best deal. And so, you know, we give them money this year and somebody wants to give them more money next year, they're going to go take it. I just don't feel quite the loyalty that we might get from some of the events that don't necessarily generate as many hotel nights. As I scored, I tried to be pretty cognizant of that though, because I think it is important that we support the hotels as much as we can. But, you know, I'm not so confident that giving money, and especially a lot of these sporting events are to the same person, to the same group. And, you know, when we did this the very first year, we ended up giving like half of the money to one event. And we all said, we're not going to, you know, that was not advantageous to do that. And so now we've got people, and the sporting event isn't the only party that did that this year. Some parties that are clearly related just used other people to present. But, you know, for example, if we granted all of the basketball events for their requests, we basically would be giving half of our money to one organization. So I kind of took that into account too, you know, as I made my decisions.
That's fair. I understand that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim, completely along the lines, not saying basically, but that's how I feel. You know, again, I would like to split it as the things I'm seeing, the things I think would be important. I'm seeing number 15, really liked that one, the Encountering John Brown, because I think that's going to be several months of people coming into town. I like everything I see on there. I'd almost like to spread that money down to maybe the top 15. is kind of what I'm seeing so far. I'm not sure Topeka Impact, if somebody can let me know on that, why that one over is. Do you remember, is that also are they making money on that? I guess is the easiest way to say that.
I believe they're not for profit. I
Okay.
believe. I
Yeah.
believe.
I think that's right.
They've been an event that's been in Lawrence now, I think, 3 years.
Yeah,
The
yeah, they're
summer.
becoming signature, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And, when we looked at originally at the gravel grinder, there was some hesitation and about that event, but, it's become I think it's becoming a signature event too, that's going to continue to grow. And it appears to be something that's going to do a lot of hotel nights.
I think
Coincidentally, they turned in, because they delayed their event, but had it a few weeks ago. And they turned in their final report. And I believe they said that they had 337 people attend that event. And he said, I think during the 3-minute presentation, that was actually a little lower than in years past. So they anticipate that growing once we get through the pandemic.
Does anybody, this is Stephen again, does anybody have any alternate ways that they would to score? Maybe 75% and 50% or anything like that, and getting more people in there? Or do we foresee the 100 or the 80 or 75 being the way to go?
Well, this is Sue. If we brought that down to the top 15, what would that do to that? Is that something we can see?
The top 15 is basically 80% is funded.
It's be 80%. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
This is Tim. I'm okay with that too. Everybody gets a little bit less than their ask, and you include a few more events in it. I think if you go too much below 80%, then you start kind of defeating the purpose of the ask.
This is Sue. I'm sorry, Tim. I guess not sorry. I keep agreeing with you on everything, but that's kind of how I feel.
This is Mary. Yes, I would agree with the 80% as well. I like the idea of including John Brown, because I think that event has the potential to stretch quite a bit further outside of Lawrence and bring some people in.
Mm-hmm. This is Heather. I get what everybody's saying, but I have to be sort of on Derek's side here. I've been to the Hy-Vee Arena and toured it. It's really nice, and he's right in that the tournaments are going to be able to get whatever they want, and Kansas City is not afraid to do sponsorships and rebates and whatnot. And if we go with this, which again, I think all the events are very worthy on that top 15, that's not really my point. It's just that we could stand to lose those events that would bring in room nights, and our hotels really are suffering here in Lawrence.
This is Mary. Heather, I really hear what you guys are saying. And I do understand we're all bleeding this year. I guess I had a hard time scoring some of those events when I looked at the budgets and saw that they were not only making a profit without factoring in the amount that was asked for with the TGT grant, but they were also getting a rebate from the hotels that wasn't always factored into the budget as well. And when so many are suffering, to see money going to groups that are already showing profit, I couldn't score them any higher.
Yeah, agreed.
Again, I just want to, and I understand what you're saying, and I don't know that I want to say I'm supporting giving one guy most of the grant money. I think that's a valid point. I just want to remind you, this fund is only going to be replenished by hotel rooms. There's no other It's not sales tax driven. It's not any other revenue will fill this account, the pool up again, but rooms. So if every room we lose next year, it's going to make it harder for the next group, the city commission.
And Derek, even the person who made made those multiple requests, he does have tournaments coming in, which he did not request.
Right. But I agree with, we learn every year. We learn how to do this better, and each year we'll hopefully get even more wise, I guess. I just struggle. And since I'm gonna lose a lot of Christmas cards already, last year I bit my last year I think I spoke up and said I won't cry, but I really struggle with Lawrence Restaurant Week. I probably won't be able to eat in a restaurant now for a while, but I struggle with that one for grant money. They're all for profit. I think that's, if they need money, I think that's good for restaurants. I know restaurants are hurting too. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to keep repeating the same thing, but I'm struggling more this year with it.
Derek, this is Tim. I agree as far as Lawrence Restaurant Week goes. And you missed the, kind of the presentation part, but, a lot of this restaurant week sounded like it was going to be kind of cash and carry sort of deals anyway. And so of the top 15, I certainly struggled with that one the most. And I would bet probably in my rankings, it was a lot lower than where it falls here. Because I'm not so sure that request falls any differently than some of the downtown, the DLI requests personally.
Yeah.
So I would have to concur with you, and maybe we pull that one out and we stretch the money down a little bit. I don't know. I'm completely open-minded, but I hear what you're saying. When I look at the top 15, I look at Busker, Christmas Parade, Live on Mass, the Roots Festival, the Gravel Grinder, and that volleyball invitational. Those are all going to have, I think, significant hotel night impacts. So, I think, just to answer a little bit, I think we are trying to cover the hotel nights. But I also agree that the Lawrence Restaurant Week really feels like a stretch for these funds.
Okay, sorry, Tim.
No, and I probably won't be invited to any restaurants either.
I think my thing on the Lawrence Restaurant Week is I do like it, and I'm same as the hotels. I understand what you guys are saying. I do know from having a business downtown how bad the restaurants are hurting, and I think not just downtown, but all throughout the city. So to me, I thought it was important, just because we really can't lose restaurants either. And some of them are so close to that point. And, that's what I think sometimes the city's for, is to keep these businesses going. And not that we're responsible for that, but I think that's what the Restaurant Week, now that they made it 2 weeks. I know Kansas City people that come in and stay overnight to do this. Now, in this kind of circumstances, I don't know if they can, but that's my 2 cents on it.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, with this template that I have here, maybe because of the unique situation that we have this year, is there wisdom perhaps to just start with, we have this as a reference point, to start working either from the top down or the bottom up and start determining just, all I have to do is put in a figure here and we start, tallying this up. Would that be helpful? And you can then discuss every one of these that you want to and make adjustments as you go.
I agree with you, Porter. Basically, I was looking at an alternative of maybe taking 100% and then going down the list of what we want to do at 100% and then going further down this at 75% and taking as far as we agree upon, and then do 50% and that's it. Or any other alternates of those numbers. I think we'll be able to do a few more. And as we discuss each one as we go down, I think we will get a consensus on which ones we really think are the ones that will be beneficial to the TGT.
So if I understand correctly, basically start with this.
Start at 100% on at the top of the old-fashioned Christmas parade, if that's the number that we decide on, right, and work our way down.
That's what, yeah, I think we're actually saying the same thing. So,
I agree. I might suggest it looks like there's a natural break in the scoring between number 5 and number 6. You know, a big enough break.
278.
You know, that maybe there's enough consensus that you fund all those top 5 at 100%.
This is Mary. I think that's a great idea.
all right, that's a great starting point.
Okay. The next 5, 10, or whatever we choose as we go, we can go down them individually and say at 75% or 80%. How does the board feel about that? Do we have a number we can agree upon?
Yeah, I think maybe the next 2 of those at 75. I'm looking at breaks because those 2. Well, there's only 1 up there that then it breaks to 250. But there's 78 that could do maybe 75.
So 70. Okay,
Heather,
so
I totally agree. I think number 6, 75%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
based on their scoring.
Then the next few we could go down a little further.
So let's take them individually then. This is Stephen again. Okay, so number 6, which is live en masse, would you go at 75%?
I think so.
Yes.
Anybody disagree?
I mean, my tendency was to almost want to give them just a little bit more because it's a multi-day event, and you know they've got some commitments to bring in some pretty big firepower from outside of town to do that event. So, no, I'm on the wrong event. Sorry, no, 75 is great. Sorry.
Okay, all right. Then
Sorry.
Then we have the Core River Roots Festival. 75%.
Would you agree to 50%? If several of you don't agree with me on this, at least give them something.
It's a startup. And
we awarded them money last year, right?
Right.
Is that correct? I think so.
Yes, you did. Unfortunately, they had
Oh,
to
no.
cancel.
I'm so sorry. I thought we had already decided on Roots Festival. I was going on down the next one. So I really think that Roots Festival needs to be a little more.
So, Stephen, I'm just doing them individually now as we move down.
Yeah,
and then what we'll do, we'll cut from 75 to whatever further number we use.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have the Core River Roots Festival at 75. Is that correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
The Lawrence Restaurant Week.
Oops.
That's a good number. I like that number.
Oh, they're gonna love you.
The Lawrence Restaurant Week did score high enough for everybody that I think they should get something. I mean, this is the one I was just asking, maybe 50%.
Sure.
I think so.
Yeah, I was looking at the scoring between the members, and it seems to go in full spectrum. 75?
50.
50.
I'd be fine with 50 on it.
I think 50.
Fine. The Summer Family Movie Series at Theatre Lawrence. This is something that basically they're bringing the cars in. They don't have a lot of cars. I think they can do 50 cars per night when they're doing this. and it's $10 per car to come in. And
This is
they're-
Heather. Are they going to be able to like expand their occupancy if pandemic becomes less of a factor maybe? Like, will they be able to have people sit outside? I just didn't know if she talked a little bit about that. I watched the video, but I don't remember her saying anything like that. So are they really stuck at the 50 number?
The funds were actually basically requested so that they could get later movies, because the movies they're showing at this moment are basically black and white. And they want,
I need to pause this. Mary, we need to somehow figure out how to let you be recused.
Right. So how do I?
Let me think. Okay, so you, I have your phone number, right?
You should.
Can I text you then when we're done?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and drop off the call and then let me text you when we're done. Okay, sorry, I just realized that that was inappropriate, so glad we caught that.
I did ask her that question, and she said, yeah, they were planning on expanding every year as they could. I know they're wanting to bring food in, things like that. So I think that's something that they were going to do. So maybe 50, it looks like we're breaking, once we've hit 50%.
we can, as we go through this, we can adjust the 50, 75 or whatever. If we put in there initially at the 50%, I think that would be agreeable, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, hang on, let me,
Okay, we're moving down now to the US Endurance Gravel Grinder National Championship.
Okay, this is Tim. So, I'm going to say this about number 10, and I'm just going to also say that this comment is for number 12 too. I would almost entertain giving both of those events 100% because of what they bring in to town. And, the gravel grinder, when that guy first started, we weren't so sure about it, but he's delivered and he continues to deliver more and more. And that's a real hotel. That generates nights. And so, kind of since we're exercising some discretion, I really feel like even though it didn't score super high, that one, we probably ought to look at seeing what we can do.
can I pause again? Forgive me. I was trying to deal with technology momentarily. I just want to make sure I got this right. So number 9, Theodore Lawrence is at 50%.
That is correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments on the gravel grinders?
We should wait for Mary and just make sure.
I'm sorry.
Oh, goodness gracious, with all this stuff I can't see. There we go. Okay, she's back. Okay, if you can catch her up on what you determine on gravel grinder, that'd be great. Just make sure she's agreeable.
Well, I think Tim just suggested we go to 100% for that one, correct?
Yeah, Mary, I suggested that we look at doing 100% on the gravel grinder and possibly the volleyball invitational, because both of those events generate a lot of hotel nights and they're growing and they're kind of repeat performers. They're going to drop off. I think we've funded both of those. I mean, we're probably starting to near where they have to step off for a year. If I remember right, the gravel grinder is probably in its 3rd year.
Oh, goodness, because we put that on pause, I didn't check that, but I think you're right.
Yeah, so, both of these I think are going to sunset before long, but they do have a big impact on the city. I mean, those when the gravel grinder took place, I saw those people all over town. So I would almost urge us to look at upping our funding for those. We don't have to necessarily just keep going down in percentage as we go down the list.
Yeah. Yeah, the grinders, I do know, I can tell you exactly as a retailer which ones do shop and which ones don't. These guys do. I think a lot of that is because the Sunflower is downtown. So I think they're downtown, and I think their families are downtown. And so I'm agreeable with Tim on this one.
Do we disagree with this? Okay. 100% on the gravel grinders.
Did you want me to do the other two or?
The speaker impact. I believe they have been with us now for 3 years. That was a pretty difficult group to bring over here. Okay, 100% on the speaker impact.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Lawrence Go Forth, which I believe is Mike Logan with his fireworks. Now, this is something which he has taken on a personal basis, which will probably not continue if we are not providing funding for this.
I agree.
This is something which obviously historically has been quite important to Lawrence from a cultural aspect. Now we just have to realize that, are we going to move forward with this? Because his contention on this was he is not really finding any private entities to step up to help with this.
Well, do we want to do 80% on it?
I was thinking 75 or 80 would be.
I'm agreeable
a
to
good
80.
percentage.
75 or 80? I mean, if basically we've got 100, 75 and 50 at the moment. If we keep going to trend, it will be 75.
I think 75.
Okay. It's just, I think that they're going to have to find alternate avenues for financing for that in the future, because I don't think Mike's going to be able to continue to support that individual if we don't help him. All right. Douglas County Fair.
Ooh, I had a hard time with this one. You know, I mean, there's so much going on there, so many things that bring them, you know, revenue and that sort of a thing. And I honestly think the county ought to be supporting it. I don't, there's a part of me that kind of has an issue with us supporting this sort of an event that's been ongoing for so long, that has support from other sources and probably ought to have more support. I mean, if it came down to me having to pick between the Douglas County Fair and the Days of Creativity and Encountering John Brown, it would be no competition. I wouldn't pick the county fair.
Yes, I'm with you on that. I'm really, that Encountering John Brown to me is important. I'd like to see what we could give it and then work back up maybe, if anybody's agreeable to that.
Comments?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I mean, we're creeping really close to our
Oh, right.
total here.
Yeah, I'm good with that as well.
Okay.
And Encountering John Brown was one of those events that you did fund last year, and obviously they
Didn't come through.
couldn't do it.
And John Brown's is going to be a 1-year event, is it not?
Yes, I believe it's
It's a single event.
a whole series of events throughout the year. Yeah.
And
But
then,
I think that if it's successful, I mean, their plan would be then to get some other sort of well-renowned exhibit to do sort of the
Right.
same thing, right? And I think this is a good jumping off point, because obviously it's national, but it's really important to Lawrence itself.
I agree. I mean, I really could fund this one at a very high level, because I think this is the unique type of event that this group was created to fund.
Mhm. Where are we at if we give them 75% or 100%? What does that leave us?
15.
75% puts you at $115,323.98.
So basically we got $4,700 left.
What if we just split that difference between Days of Creativity and John Brown? I mean, I think you could fund John Brown a little bit higher? No, I guess you can't, because what's our cutoff, 120?
120.
Mhm.
Okay.
Funding both of those events at 75% brings you to 118,000. I can't quite see it. 323. Just
What if
FYI.
we did John Brown a little higher to get that finished? I don't
Wait a
know.
minute, what about the Douglas County Fair, which is up there? Are we displacing that?
I would personally.
I would agree with Tim.
They have other income streams.
Okay.
I don't know if I can go to 80.
Oh, 8,000.
Ooh, wow, they're going to be happy with that.
Only numbers, right? All right. So that pulls it up to 118,798.
Okay. Do you want to take the go forth up to 80?
Can't quite do 100. All right, so let me try that. 80. Oops, gosh, I don't know why it does that.
Wishful thinking.
80 point?
No, it just is jumping. I don't, oh, it must be doing a calculation, sorry. Okay, and then if I do, oh, same thing. Get a couple of zeros out of there. Okay,
And did we say we wanted to put Lawrence Go Forth at 80%?
Take Lawrence go forth if you agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, where is
Number
it?
11.
There it is. All right, so take that up to 80.
Mhm.
And hang on, because I know I get in trouble here. Keep in mind, I'm doing this across the room.
Okay, so we've got 500 left. We've got those two 50s.
What if you put, a little bit, what if you put another 5% on John Brown?
No, we won't both use we'll use a percentage now. You're just going to have to basically do it.
Yeah, obviously, we
Round it to an
bumped into
amount.
this the last
Yeah.
couple of years. We didn't get quite to the exact amount, but
Because you got $26.
That's pretty darn close.
yeah.
Looks good.
So based upon the criteria that we've just used, does anybody see a problem with this or anybody disagree with it? Or do you think this is probably the best that we can do with the funds that we have available to us?
I think it's a wide variety. I'm really, I think, happy with what I'm seeing because sometimes it's all one way or the other. And I think we've spread this out pretty well.
Agreed.
I struggle with, number 12 will probably produce as many room nights as the other ones we're funding combined. I'd be pretty confident to make that bet. And I struggle because I know the ones that we're not funding, and maybe they'll still come, maybe they won't, I don't, but that's my one. But you don't have to put up with me next year, so I can eat in restaurants next year.
So Derek,
But I don't know go ahead, sorry.
what do you suggest on number 12, which is the Topeka impact?
Well, I think I'm glad it's getting funding. My point is, it's probably going to produce as many room nights if I'm basing it off consistency of the last few years. Now, granted, COVID probably could change the next summer,
No, it's a great producer.
but the rest of those above it won't produce as many room nights as that one will, which is it's the source of replenishing. But I understand what everybody's saying, and I'm one vote, and I'm not going to go home and cry, but I may shed a little tears, but I'm kind of emotional. But I struggle to support that we're basically saying we're going to put those tournaments below at risk of coming to Lawrence. And that's just hard for me this year. Again, I've done really good the first 3 years. So, I'm just struggling on that and to see, but I think, we've gotten further than I thought we'd get. So,
Okay.
This is Tim. I think your point's well taken, but I think this also belabors the fact that the city needs to set up and fund a sports retention group, because I just don't see it as our job to look kind of exclusively at those things. I think we have to be pretty balanced in our approach. And, I know that there was some talk about that, but I think if they want to attract and get these kind of events, which really are going to go to the highest bidder, then they need to pony up cash to do that. And they need to have somebody who is trained and experienced in bringing and maintaining those kind of events here, just like an Eco Devo person. So I agree. I mean, I would love to see our hotels filled up every single night of the year. And hopefully we've balanced a little bit of that. I think, for example, the Roots Festival, almost all of those acts are traveling here. I think the impact of that event is not going to be known, but I do know that when they started selling tickets out of the gate, they sold tickets from about 6 surrounding states, if I remember right. So, there could be some nice surprises in this batch. I feel your pain, but I just think if we're gonna get into the business of attracting sports events, then somebody else needs to be doing that besides us.
Good comments, Tim. Anybody else want to make a comment before I call for a motion? Okay, I'd like to call for a motion and a vote to accept the award recommendations that will be submitted to the City Commission.
So moved.
Who moved?
Tim, okay, Tim moved, seconded by
Heather.
By Heather. And I'd like to conduct a roll call. Mary,
Yes.
Derek,
no.
Sue,
Yes.
Heidi is absent, Stephen, yes. I'd like to thank you all for your work on this.
Wait.
No,
You need to get Tim and Heather. They moved and
sorry.
but they didn't vote.
Heather
Yes.
and Tim, sorry.
Yes.
These recommendations will be given, will be on the next Tuesday's City Commission agenda for their review. Okay, call for a motion and a vote to adjourn then.
So move.
I move we adjourn. This is Sue.
Tim, you want to take second?
Got it.
All right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great job. Thanks again for your patience when we were battling our technology, but great job, guys. Really appreciate your time and energy in this. And thank you very much. And I think it's probably say happy holidays.
Happy
Same to you
holidays,
all.
everybody.
Hi, everyone. Happy holidays.
Merry
Same to you.
Christmas.
Bye.